أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على أفضل الموجودات العبد المؤيد الرسول المصدد المصطفى الأمجد والمحمود الأحمد سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا صاحب الوقار والسكينة المدفون بأرض المدينة أبي القاسم محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين آمين يا رب العالمين. أما بعد فقد قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم إن الله يحب الشجاعة ولو على قتل حية. صدق رسول الله الكريم. صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our azadari for Sayyid al-Shuhada and give us tawfiq to continuously shed tears for Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salam and his brother Abu al-Fadl Abbas salamullahi alayhi. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Tonight being the last of the series of lectures on Abu al-Fadl Abbas, I want to discuss those qualities, those merits and those fada'il that exist within the Anbiya, within the prophets of God, that were also seen within Abu al-Fadl. In other words, the sifat of the Anbiya, the characteristics of the Anbiya, the virtues of Anbiya Allah from Adam to Rasulullah, those merits existed within Abu al-Fadl. What is one merit that each prophet must have for him to be successful in his tabligh? Many things can be said. Someone might say piety, someone might say righteousness, somebody might say isma, infallibility, someone might say his memory has to be good or he'll forget. But there's one that's so important that if that isn't there, everything else either becomes difficult or pretty much impossible to do. That is the quality of bravery. Every prophet must be brave. Why? Because the prophet must face people. Recite salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. One of the qualities is bravery. If a prophet isn't brave, then how will that prophet face the backlash of the community? How will the prophet stand in his place, defy the masses, and say, La ilah, these gods, these are no gods. No God, illallah, except Allah. That takes courage. La ilaha illallah took courage. Why? Because they said these are all gods. These, the idols that have filled in the homes or filled inside the Kaaba, they are gods. And so it took courage for the Prophet. Nuh alayhi salam was all alone and everybody said, what are you doing? They used to say, this old man is gone crazy. He's building an ark, a ship in the desert. Which water is going to come here? Which flood is going to come here? And so it took bravery for them to stand there. Isa alayhi salam when he went to preach, Musa alayhi salam when he went against the Pharaoh, Fir'aun, it took bravery, shaja'ah. Rasulullah would go to a place called Ta'if. in Hijaz. You go there, it's still there, the city of Ta'if. This was the most difficult place for Rasulullah to do tabligh because they would throw stones at him. They would get their children, hold stones in your hands, and when Muhammad ibn Abdullah comes, you throw stones towards him. Yet Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would still go to Ta'if. He would get up again the next day and go back to Ta'if. If the Prophet did not have bravery, if the Anbiya did not have shaja'ah, this would not have continued. The Prophet would not be able to come out. And what does the Prophet say? Inna Allah yuhibbu shaja'a. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves bravery. Allah loves the brave. In other words, bravery is one of the qualities the mu'min must have. Yeah? There are certain qualities that are important for the self-building of a mu'min. Number one, bravery, shaja'ah. Number two, hikmah, wisdom. Yeah? A mu'min must be wise. Otherwise, what is the point? Number three, modesty, chastity. If a mu'min or a mu'minah doesn't have that, then what is the point of iman? In fact, they say the soul, the ruh of iman is modesty. Man or woman, doesn't matter. Male or female, everybody must have modesty. Yeah, these are amongst those primary qualities that are needed to build a character for a mu'min or a mu'minah. Shaja'ah is one of them. Now there is a misconception when you think of the brave, when you think a person is brave, straight away you think the one who is tall in height, big in his build, big arms, is brave. That's not bravery. Bravery, contrary to popular belief, has nothing to do with the body or the size of the body, or how much somebody goes to the gym or works out or does exercise. Bravery is to do with the nafs. It's to do with the nafs of the insan. In other words, a person can be the smallest in size, yet the bravest. Yeah? Has nothing to do with the size of a person's hand, the size of a person's arm, his shoulders. It is to do with the nafs. A person can be all alone and still stand firm in the battlefield. They say brave are for a few types. The ulama who have discussed it say either you're a faris. Faris is who? Faris is somebody who recites salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum wa sallam. They say a faris is a brave person. Who's faris? The ulama who've discussed this, the ulama of akhlaq, they say a faris is somebody when he's attacked, he attacks back. So if he's attacked, he attacks back. He's brave. But then the ulama said, no, there is another type. This is somebody who's shaja'. Who's this? This is somebody who calls out an opponent. He challenges and he waits. You know Amr ibn Wad in Khandaq? He was shaja', he was brave. Because he called out the Muslims. Oh Muhammad, who will fight me? And he waited. But nobody came forward from the Muslims. Illa Ali. Except Amirul Mu'mineen. You know what Shaykh al-Mufid says? Shaykh Mufid in his Kitab al-Irshad, he says the Muslims were so silent and so still when he came in. He jumped over, the Khandaq, he jumped over and he came in. The Muslims were so still as if they had birds on their heads. That if they moved, they would fly. But then the ulama say, no, there is somebody else who's braver. This is the batal. Who is this? The batal. He's somebody that even when his comrades, when his friends, when his soldiers leave him, desert him, he still stays. You want to see a batal? You look towards Uhud. When everybody leaves, leaving Rasulullah in the mouth of danger, there is his brother who stood by him. Khaybar, Hunayn. Okay, so this is the highest level of bravery. And Rasulullah says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He loves this characteristic of sifat or sifat of bravery. Now, because it's to do with the nafs, you know, when you say somebody is brave, you say so and so, kal asad, is brave like a lion. But the reality is, lion does not have shaja'ah. He does not have bravery. The lion has jur'ah, courage. There's a difference between courage and bravery. Why? Because the lion has jur'at. He'll attack. As soon as he's face to face with his opponent, he'll attack. Whereas the brave has shu'ur. He has aql as well. He knows when to attack and he knows when to stop. The lion doesn't have that. He sees the opponent, attacks. Whereas the brave, he has courage, but he goes a step forward. He knows when to attack, he knows when to hold back. Yes? I'll give an example. When Ali ibn Abi Talib fought Amr ibn Wad in Khandaq, he puts him down. He has a sword, he's ready to strike him. He spits his saliva at Imam Amirul Mu'mineen. Ali stops. Even though in the natural, when you're already fighting somebody and you're taking him down, they do this, it angers you more. And now I'll finish you. But Ali did not just have jur'ah. He had courage and bravery, and he aql and shu'ur. He was about to strike, and when he does that, he stops. He comes off, he takes a walk, he comes back, and he finishes him. Because his legs were already cut. Because he had cut the legs of his horse, Imam Ali had cut his legs off. And he said, Ya Ali, what is this? He says, we are nahnu ahlul bayt. We are the family of the Prophet. We fight for the sake of Allah. Had I struck you then, they would have said that Ali did this out of anger. Ali does not act out of anger. Whatever he does is lillah. Al-hubbu fillah wal-bughdu lillah. Love and hate in the life of Ali is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah? And so he stops. Now, it shows you that bravery has another element, which is sabr. If a person does not have sabr, that person cannot be brave. He can have courage, but he's not brave. In other words, Ali was patient at that time. Though he could have struck him. He comes off. It is two sides of the same coin. In other words, a person who's shaja, a person who's brave, he must have the element of sabr. Yeah? And now connect with Abul Fadl Abbas. When you think of bravery, the first person that comes to mind is Abbas ibn Ali. The first person. And sometimes we say, Al-Abbas kal-Asad, Al-Abbas kal-Jabal. He was strong like a mountain, he was strong like a lion. But nobody realizes how brave he was, but at the same time, how patient he was. He had been itching to fight from Medina. When Walid ibn Uqba, when he calls Imam al-Hussein, Salamullahi alayhi, Abul Fadl says, I'll finish him. Imam Hussein stops him. Not now. They come to Karbala. No, first they go to Kufa. And Hur takes them towards Nainawa, Karbala. Abu al-Fadl is furious. Imam Hussein says, no. 2nd of Muharram, they enter into the land of Karbala. Where do they set their camp? The Mukhayyam at first is by the Furat, the Alqama. 3rd of Muharram, they say, move the tents. You're too close to the waters. We have clear instruction from Yazid ibn Muawiyah or Ibn Ziyad that they cannot be near the water, the Furat. So they were moved. Abu al-Fadl Abbas again said, I will go and fight. Now's the time. Imam Hussein says no. 7th of Muharram, when the water is blocked, they still have the energy. They're still not as thirsty. Night of Ashura, Umar ibn Sa'ad wanted to attack the night of Ashura. Abu al-Fadl would have fought. What does Imam Hussein say? Imam Hussein says, oh brother, go, but not to fight. Go ask them for another night. Is this not sabr? He's brave, but bravery only comes with sabr. And when the day of Ashur is at its peak, and now it's the time for Abu al-Fadl to say farewell to Imam al-Hussein, even then he doesn't get permission to go and fight. You must go, Abbas, go and get some water for the children. A little bit of sharbatan min al-ma, a little bit of water, bring it. Despite all of that, how Abu al-Fadl Abbas is tested. Step after step, moment after moment. So while he had bravery, while he had courage, he also had the sabr of his father Ali ibn Abi Talib. Now imagine, is Ali's bravery not enough? There was no one as brave as Ali ibn Abi Talib. Ali's bravery was enough. Yet when you couple the bravery of Ali ibn Abi Talib with the bravery of Ummul Baneen, you get Abu al-Fadl Abbas. Yeah. Ali's bravery was enough. Ali's loyalty was enough. But when those two come together, you get Abu al-Fadl. Now imagine his loyalty. Imagine his bravery, his jura. And so, the Prophet says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الشَّجَاعَ وَلَوْ عَلَى قَتْلِ حَيَّةٍ. Allah loves bravery, even if it means to kill a snake. You're being attacked by a snake. The Prophet says, even if you kill that snake, that is a small form of bravery. But Allah loves that bravery. That you stood firm. You defended yourself. You protected yourself. You got rid of a threat. Now imagine somebody like Abu al-Fadl, who defends Hussein and kills the enemies of Allah. Abbas contained within him the fada'il of Anbiya. The fada'il of Anbiya within Abu al-Fadl. You see, all Anbiya had bravery. Otherwise they would not be able to do what they did. If they did not have shaja'ah, they would not be able to take. When the surah of Bara'ah was revealed to the Prophet, as you know, this is the only surah without Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, also known as At-Tawbah. Yes, chapter 9 of the Holy Quran. This was a harsh surah against the mushrikeen of Makkah. You had to go and announce dissociation from them. You had to go and announce mushrikeen and najis. This is the house of Allah. Islam is the final religion. Islam is the final word. The bottom line is Islam. This was difficult. And so Rasulullah was instructed to go and send this with a letter he wrote towards the mushrikeen of Mecca. And so he sends the first caliph. He gives him, go and read this to the mushrikeen. As he's going, Jibreel descends. Ya Rasulullah, it is the will of God that this is something that's either done by you or somebody who's from you or like you. Rajulan minka, somebody from you, like you. So he calls him back and he says, where is my brother Ali ibn Abi Talib? There's only one who's like me. There's only one who was the nafs of the Prophet. And so Amirul Mu'mineen, now fast forward, cutting it short, he enters Makkah. Now imagine this, Muslims are in Medina, Makkah at that time, Makkah which has the house of God, which is the markaz of Tawheed. Makkah at that time was the markaz of Shirk. The enemies of the Prophet. Ali ibn Abi Talib enters, stands on the Kaaba, recites Suratul Bara'ah. And there was not a person in Makkah who did not have hate for Ali amongst the mushrikeen. Because they knew the main champion of the Muslims is him. Every battle we go to, he's the hardest one. He's the one who kills the most. He's the one who takes down our champions. He's the one who protects the life of the Prophet. He's the one who stands in Badr and Uhud and Khandaq. This is the one. This is our main enemy. You know what Imam Amirul Mu'mineen says? He says, when I was surrounded by the enemy, I glanced in my heart. And I did not have even a little bit of fear that I could feel. Not an inch, not an iota of fear within me. You know why? Because the one who fears Allah fears nothing. And the Hadith Qudsi says, you fear Allah, Allah will make everything fear you. Yeah? So Abul Fadl Abbas was the son of this Ali. And so when he goes to Furat, towards the Shatt al-Furat, the enemies move back. Nobody wants to approach him from the front. When they attack him, they hide behind palm trees. When they attack him on the right side and they attack him, they were hiding on the way back. Up front, nobody wants to fight him. He enters the Furat. Everybody's looking. He's filling the water. And so now we have to stop the water from getting back. So they hide behind palm trees to try to take down Abul Fadl Abbas. And that's how they killed Hazrat Abul Fadl Abbas. Recite salawat. Allahumma salli. This is one of the characteristics of Anbiya. The other is al-ilm. Knowledge. Anbiya had all ilm, ulum that were given to them by Allah. Rasulullah had ilm al-ghayb. His ilm was connected, ilm al-ladunni, was connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with the ilm of Allah. Now what can be said about the ilm of Abul Fadl? The ilm of Abbas ibn Ali. You know, in the old days, you did not have a system like you have today. You go to school, you go to college, you go to university, and you get a degree. There was no degree system back then. You didn't have a college or a institute like a university where everybody sits in a formalized, systemized way and you get a knowledge, or you learn a science, you learn a discipline. In the old days, educated parents would produce educated children. And parents that were illiterate, their children were mainly illiterate. Even though today that's not the case. You can have illiterate parents and the children can become doctors and engineers and lawyers and accountants. Today is different. Yeah? A person, a father knows nothing about mathematics. The son is an accountant. Parents know nothing about religion. the child is a scholar of religious sciences. Okay? Happens. Today is easy. In the old days, that wasn't the case. It's like if a child lives in a city compared to a child that lives in a village. Never seen electricity in the remote village, even though today villages have electricity as well. But remote village, never seen electricity, never seen a light bulb, never seen this light switch. You bring that child here, he doesn't know what the switch is. Whereas a child who's grown up in the city, knows the switch, can use an iPhone, can use a tablet. Yeah? The children will agree. Download games. That's just how it is. That's how they've been brought. But the old days, they would look for a teacher, somebody who could, if they were interested. Otherwise, majority of the parents are juhala, ignorant, the children are uneducated. Unless they find ustad, teacher, sheikh, somebody who can teach them, teach my child. And they would take it. Yeah? In Medina, who do you think they used to go to? Who trained the likes of Abdullah ibn Abbas, Asbagh ibn Nubata, Malik al-Ashtar, Kumail, Maytham? Who trained these in Kufa? Who trained the likes of Salman and Abu Dhar? Amirul Mu'mineen. Whatever Maytham knew, he knew from Amirul Mu'mineen. Whatever Asbagh knew, he knew from Amirul. Abdullah ibn Abbas learned Quran from Amirul Mu'mineen. Yeah? Now imagine there is a muhaddith who's narrated hadith. His name is Hasan al-Basri. Okay? He's a muhaddith, Sunni. As-Suyuti, one of the authors, he writes that this Hasan al-Basri used to narrate a hadith from Amirul Mu'mineen. He was a rawi who narrated hadith from Ali ibn Abi Talib. You know how? You know how he did that? His mother was a khadima. She used to serve in the house of Ummul Mu'mineen, Salma. And sometimes she would go there to serve in the house of the wife of Rasulullah. And when she would go there, Hasan al-Basri was small, she would take him with her. And then some years went by, he got older. And in that house, because it was the house of Rasulullah, Amirul Mu'mineen would come and go. This Hasan al-Basri from a young age would see Ali ibn Abi Talib come and go, meet with the Prophet, meet with Rasulullah and leave and then come again. So he says, in my young age, as I used to accompany my mother in the house of Salma, Ali would come sometimes and he would go and I would listen to him. He was a sami'. He was a listener. He was listening to Ali ibn Abi Talib, and when he grew up, he then became a rawi. Somebody who does naql of hadith. He started narrating hadith. I heard Ali ibn Abi Talib. I heard Ali ibn Abi Talib. Yeah? I heard Ali, sami'tu aliyan alayhi salam. I heard Ali. Somebody who was small, who would visit occasionally the house of Salma, where Ali would visit occasionally, becomes a rawi of hadith. They consider him a alim, muhaddith. Then what about someone like Abbas, who was raised in the lap of Ali ibn Abi Talib? Just compare. Logical. Somebody who comes sometimes with his mother, Ali comes. Somebody who's a son of Ali, raised in the lap of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Somebody who sees Amirul Mu'mineen 24 hours a day and night. There's an interesting story. One of the ulama, he was a faqih. He was giving a dars. And they were talking about Abu al-Fadl Abbas. He says, yes, it is true, Abbas was brave, shaja', he had jur'ah, and he was a battle, he was a fighter, he was a warrior. Somebody said, Ya Sheikh, What about his knowledge? His ilm? Did he have knowledge? He paused. He said, I don't know. We can't say anything about his knowledge. Bravery we can say. Courage we can say. Patience we can say. But knowledge, it doesn't seem like Abbas was a man of knowledge. Wal-ayadu billah. He says, that night, I went home, I fell asleep. In my dream, I saw Abul Fadl Abbas. He said, Ya Shaykh, I have a mas'ala, fiqhiyya, shar'iyya. I have a mas'ala, a query, a question of fiqh, jurisprudence. I need you to answer it. This Shaykh in a dream, he says, Abul Fadl asked me about a question about jurisprudence. He said, I began to tremble. One, this is Ibn Amir al-Mu'mineen. This is the son of Ali ibn Abi Talib asking me, who am I? And two, I didn't know the answer. So I was worried on both accounts. Number one, who am I and who is Abul Fadl? He's asking me. And two, I can't even answer anything. I don't know. He says, Yabna Amir al-Mu'mineen. I don't know the answer. And he says, in my dream, Abul Fadl Abbas replied to me, Ya Shaykh, you consider yourself a faqih, alim, mujtahid, even though you have learned the knowledge of my father Ali ibn Abi Talib through many of the rawis, ruwat. You know when you learn a hadith, you an fulan, you know, you get the narration from a number of narrators. Yeah? Ruwatul hadith. The rawi. Abul Fadl Abbas says to him, so you consider yourself a alim, faqih, even though you've learned the ahadith of my father from God knows how many narrators, and not all of them are thiqa, mu'tabar. Some of them are reliable, some of them are unreliable. Some of them are praised in rijal and some of them are not. And yet you become a faqih. Whereas there is no gap between me and my father Ali. There is no gap. There is no rawi between Abbas and Ali. Abbas heard directly from Ali ibn Abi Talib. Yeah. Is this clear or no? Yeah? Because see, when we learn in the Hawza, we learn a tradition, a hadith, we look at the narrators, and then we get to. We don't have a direct connection with Ali ibn Abi Talib. We rely on these rawat. We rely on these narrators. Abbas does not rely on anyone. Abbas sits in the lap of Ali as a child. He's trained by not only Ali, he's trained by Ali, Hassan, Hussein. 3 infallible ma'sumin, a'imma. So if you, after all these years, can become an alim, then how can you doubt the ilm of Abul Fadl? How can you? Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says, my uncle, recite salawat. كان عمنا العباس نافذ البصيرة. Our uncle Abbas had foresight. And foresight is only there where Allah first places ilm. You cannot have foresight without ilm. Our uncle, Al-Allam al-Mamaqani in Tanqih al-Maqal, one of the ulama, experts of Rijal, he says Abul Fadl Abbas was min fuqaha'i awlad al-a'imma. Abu al-Fadl Abbas was amongst the fuqaha of awlad al-Aimma, of the children of Aimma Ahl al-Bayt. Aimma had children other than Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein. Abu al-Fadl Abbas was amongst the fuqaha of the awlad of the Imams, of the children of the Imams. Not somebody's. Now the question is, but why do we not find a hadith from Abu al-Fadl Abbas? Why is the tarikh, the history, so limited, so small when it comes to Abu al-Fadl Abbas? When you look for books on Abu al-Fadl Abbas, the majority of it focuses on the day of Ashura or the night of Ashur. Yes? Why do we not have that? Why do we not have narrations that Abu al-Fadl Abbas says this, that Abu al-Fadl Abbas says this? Two answers. Number one, as long as his master Hussein was there, Abbas would not dare say anything. In the words of one of the ulama, he says, whatever Abbas did not say anything except that it was already said by Imam al-Hussein before. In other words, Abu al-Fadl Abbas was like a mirror reflection of Imam al-Hussein. Whatever Abu al-Fadl Abbas would say, Imam al-Hussein has already said that. So he would not say, or he would not say anything in the presence of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Number two, if there are no narrations from him, or if history is limited on Abu al-Fadl Abbas's personality, his life, his early life before Ashur, then the problem is not Abu al-Fadl Abbas. The problem are those historians who have ignored him. Why have the historians ignored him? Why have the historians not written about him? Do you think that historians have written everything? No. Who said historians have written everything? But what we know is much less than what there is. If the historians ignored him, it's their problem. It's their bias. If the historians neglected him, it's the problem of the Mu'arrikh. If Tabari has ignored him, the problem is Tabari. Yeah? Not Abu al-Fadl. There is no Abu al-Fadl Abbas does not have a problem. Why did they not write on him? And they wasted time here and there on writing Tarikh al-Tabari. This is a huge piece of history. Yeah? Yet despite that, you know how many pages he dedicates? This is volumes, Tabari. You know how many pages he dedicates to Karbala? Forget a volume, not even a volume. 60 pages. All of Karbala and Imam al-Hussein is in 60 pages. What does that tell you? That these people either didn't care, or when they did write, they were very brief. So sometimes people say, you know what? Yeah, but this musibah, is it in Tabari? But who said to you Tabari wrote everything? In fact, Tabari didn't write most things. And hence why the Shias have books known as the Maqatil. Yes? Because the Maqtal focuses on the details of Ashura. Detail, tafsil. What happened from the morning, what happened from the night, morning, Zuhr, Asr, Ba'd al-Asr, the evening, the night, in detail. Otherwise, historians have largely ignored a personality like Abu al-Fadl. I'll give you an example when we discuss the knowledge of Abu al-Fadl Abbas. In Kufa, when Sayyidah Zainab gave her khutbah, you remember what Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam said to her? Ya ammati, anti bihamdillah alimatun ghayru muallima. Oh, Aunt Zainab, when she was giving the sermon, and he stopped her, he said, that's it, stop. That's enough. Anti bihamdillah, you by the praise of God are an alima, somebody who's learned. هل يستوي الذين يعلمون والذين لا يعلمون? Do you think the alim is same as the jahil? No. He says you are an alima who never went to a teacher. You look through history. Hasan al-Basri, who are his teachers? You'll find his teachers. Abu Hanifa, who are his teachers? You'll find his teachers. Imam Malik, who are his teachers? You'll find his teachers. Sayyidah Zainab and Abul Fadl Abbas, who are their teachers? You won't find anything. Who did Sayyidah Zainab learn from? Directly from the Imam Ma'soom himself. And some things are not learnt. Yep. It wasn't like Sayyidah Zainab would sit here and Imam Ali would sit here and say, open your book and write. You know, the ulama, they say that certain things are not taught. This is not how Abul Fadl Abbas and Sayyidah Zainab learn. Like in today's day and age, you don't teach your child how to use a mobile phone. They learn it. And they learn it better than you. They know how to download things. They know how to go on YouTube and watch what they want to watch. And you may say, I haven't even taught you that. But because the knowledge of that specific technology is so common in your house, they pick it up. And knowledge itself was so common in the household of Ali ibn Abi Talib that Abbas and Zainab picked it up. Yeah? Like the children. Today they pick up so many things. But of course this was more than that. Because this is the household of Isma and Tahara. Purity and infallibility. And Zainab, you are a alima who has never learned from her, who has never gone and, learned from somebody, who's never gone to anybody, sat in front of them. Okay, you sit up there, I sit in front of you, you teach. That has never happened. And you know what she says to Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam when he saw his father without a kafan? Ya baqiyata jaddi. Oh, you are the memory of my grandfather. Oh Sajjad, Ali al-Sajjad, salamullahi alayhi. Oh my son Sajjad, you are the remembrance of my grandfather Rasulullah. This is hadith in Kamilu Ziyarat. This is the ilm of Sayyidah Zainab. When you connect it with the ilm of Abul Fadl Abbas. Oh Sajjad, you are the remembrance of my grandfather Rasulullah. Wa abi, my father Ali ibn Abi Talib. Wa akhi, and my brother Hasan al-Mujtaba. Do not worry. I see that they will raise a flag over the grave of your father in his name. See, today Karbala has a flag. Huh? This was predicted by Sayyidah Zainab. The Karbala of today was predicted by Sayyidah Zainab. How does she know this? I see a day that they will raise a banner, a flag in the name of your father over his grave. And then, O Sajjad, the trace, the sign of this grave will never vanish. Not that the grave won't go, because the grave was destroyed. Mutawakkil, la'natullahi alayhi, destroyed the grave of Imam al-Hussein numerous times. Yeah? But the sign was there, they kept bringing it back. They kept building it back. So the Zainab says, the signs will never, the traces will never disappear. In fact, I see that here, with the passing of time, I see that this land, Karbala, and the grave of your father Hussein will only get bigger. The signs will only radiate. The people will flock. She says, I don't see this going down. I see it going up. And today you look at Arba'in. Arba'in is coming. How did Sayyidah Zainab know the future? It's because her ilm Like the ilm of Abul Fadl Abbas was not like your and my knowledge that we learn and we gain. It was above and beyond that. It was a knowledge which was inspired by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. It was inspired by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even though Imam Sajjad is ma'asum, he has that knowledge. And finally, before I come to Masa'ib, a last point or two, Al-Imam As-Sadiq says, أَشْهَدُ لَكَ بِالتَّسْلِيمِ وَالتَّصْدِيقِ. In the ziyarah of Abul Fadl Abbas, the Imam Salamullah alayhi says that I bear witness, أشهد لك بالتسليم والتصديق. I bear witness that your submission and the level of your submission to Allah and the Ma'soom was phenomenal. In other words, I bear witness to that. In other words, Abbas alayhi salam has a guarantee from Imam As-Sadiq. His household is not normal. It is said in history, you know, when Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam was born, Rasulullah kissed Imam Ali on the lips as a child. In the same way, when Abul Fadl Abbas was born, Imam Hussein kissed him on the lips. There was something in that saliva of the Prophet. And hence why Amir al-Mu'minin would sit in the masjid of Kufa. He would say, Saluni qabla an tafqiduni. Hada lu'abu Rasulillah. He would point here and he would say, this is as a result of that saliva of the Prophet that touched my lips. And Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam does the same too. Abul Fadl Abbas. It's not a joke. I'll give an example. Somebody came to Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam. He spoke with Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam in Hindi, in a language that is not common in Iraq. The Imam doesn't speak. He says, I was shocked. This person has come from India, from Sindh. And the Imam is speaking with him in the Indian language. Imam al-Hadi. This is who? Abu Hashim al-Ja'fari. He says, Yabna Rasulillah. I wish I could speak another language. The Imam says, pick up that pebble, small stone pebble off the floor. He picks it up, the Imam puts it in his mouth. He takes it out, he says, now place it in your mouth. He places it in his mouth. The saliva of the Imam was transferred from his mouth, from the Imam's mouth to his. He says, when I took it out, I spoke 70 languages. Even the saliva of the Prophet, the blood of the Prophet, these things are not normal, they're not ordinary. Why do you think where the blood of Hussein was spilled, that land, that turba has shifa? Allah has put shifa fi turbati al-Hussein. وإجابة الدعاء تحت قبته. And dua is accepted under the dome of Hussein. And Imama will continue from the sons of Hussein. People are not ordinary. Abul Fadl Abbas sits in the lap of Imam Amir al-Mu'minin as a young boy. And like a father would say, you know, when you teach your child, you say, son, you know, say one. Qul wahid, say one. He says to Abul Fadl, say one. He says one. And you know, now you think he's teaching him. But you said, you know, you might say, Maulana, you just said they didn't learn like this. And then Imam Amir al-Mu'minin says, say two, ithnain. Abul Fadl replies. He says, how can the tongue that says one and testifies to his oneness now say two? You know, even though in numerology, when it comes to numbers, there's no problem in saying one, and then after one is two, after two is three. No problem in it. But this was to show you and I. Amir al-Mu'minin knows certain things in history did so that they could be passed on to people like you and I who know nothing. This was to show that the ma'rifah of Abul Fadl Abbas, even at that age, had reached its peak. Ma'rifah has nothing to do with your age. It's not that when I turn 90, I get ma'rifah. You can be 90 and have zero ma'rifah. Ma'rifah has nothing to do with age. It has to do with iman and shu'ur. And Allah can give it to Isa alayhi salam in the cradle. When Jesus spoke from the cradle, He can give it to Yahya when he was a child. Yeah? But Yahya alayhi salam was a child. At that young age, he says, how can I say two with the tongue that I said one? Yeah? It shows you the ilm of Abul Fadl Abbas. His submission, his sabr, his bravery. And in the end, and I come to Masaib, just put the prophets together. Put Adam in front of you. Adam, Allah says to Malaika, bow to him. The angels bow to Adam. In the same way, the angels descend upon the qabr of Abul Fadl Abbas. Yeah? Adam alayhi salam cried for Jannah when he was thrown out. Whereas Jannah, paradise, awaited Abul Fadl Abbas. Yeah. Adam was not a shaheed. Abul Fadl was afdalu shuhada. Adam was known for his ilm, his knowledge. And the Quran says, وَعَلَّمَ الْآدَمَ, we taught Adam asma kullaha. We taught Adam all of the asma, all of the names. The ilm of Abbas, it's enough for you and I to know that this is the son of Bab Madinatul Ilm. Ana Madinatul Ilm wa Aliyun Babuha. That Bab, the son is Abul Fadl Abbas. Yeah? Adam was prohibited from the fruit. And he had it. Whereas Imam Hussein never stopped Abul Fadl Abbas from a drop of water. But he didn't have it. And finally, Adam alayhi salam was deceived by shaitan. Even though it was for a small moment. To go to the tree. وَلَا تَقْرَبَ هَذِهِ الشَّجَرَةِ. Adam deceived him. Don't go to the tree. Shaitan deceived Adam alayhi salam. Go to the tree. So Adam alayhi salam was deceived. Yet on the night of Ashura, Shimr could not deceive Abul Fadl Abbas. Remember when Shimr came? Said, look, this is a document of immunity. You and your brothers are safe. Come. Nobody could deceive Abul Fadl Abbas. Yet it is at a time like this, as the Ahl Haram enter Asham, that the daughters of Ali and Fatima would remember Abul Fadl Abbas. If only Abul Fadl was here. When they entered those busy streets, you know what Shimr did? La'natullahi alayhi. He took them into the neighborhood of the Christians and the Jews that lived in Asham. And he would say, oh, those of you who want to avenge Khaybar and what Ali did in Khaybar, come and throw stones at the daughters of Ali. Ajrukum ala Allah ya Shia. Imagine when they enter Asham, you know how difficult Asham was. Whenever they would ask Al-Imam As-Sajjad, Yabna Rasulillah, why do you cry? Isn't it the case that you said, Al-Qatlu lana aada, that getting killed for us is normal, and Shahada for us is karama. Shahada for us is a noble thing. Who asked this question to Imam As-Sajjad? Minhal. And what did he say to Minhal? He says, oh Minhal, yes, you're right. Though that is the case, but you have not been fair with your question. He says, what do you mean? He says, yes, while being killed is a form of nobility and ada for us and normal for us. We were all killed and we'll all be killed. But tell me, is it fair that the daughters of Rasulullah are brought like this in front of the masses? And so he would cry, Asham, Asham. And there are narrations that he would say that he would remember what would happen to him in Asham. And they would ask him, what is it that happened in Sham that made you cry? And the Maqatil state that he would mention certain of the Masa'ib that he was really hurt by the most. What is he saying? He says, when they brought us into this city, as you know, in the month of Safar, they enter Asham. He would say, look, they surrounded us. They surrounded us with swords and spears. And sometimes they would hit us with the backs of the swords and spears. That was Wallah, that was difficult for Imam al-Sajjad. And they would say, oh, Yabna Rasulillah, what else was difficult? He says that there were women on the rooftops and they would throw down hot boiling water. And what happened, he says, one of them threw down burning coals. One of the coals entered my ammama. And it was burning my head, but I couldn't do anything because they had tied my hands. Ajrakum ala Allah ya Shia. How do I say this part? And he says, but the most difficult was when they would bring the heads of Abul Fadl al-Abbas and my father Aba Abdullah in front of Zainab and Kulthum, to hurt them, to cause grief and pain. Imagine Sayyida Zainab, a sister who had never left her brother until the day of Ashura. She would always stay with her brother. Now imagine a sister who has so much love when she sees her brother in a state. There's a severed head. Kulthum sees Abul Fadl al-Abbas in that state. Imagine what they were going through, but I don't know what was more difficult for Sayyida Zainab. To see the head of Hussein on a spear, or to see Shimr sitting on the chest of Aba Abdullah. Ajrakum ala Allah, I leave you with this. And for this reason Imam Sajjad would cry. Some of the historians say 30 years, some say 35, some say as far as 40 years. There's a dispute, but for many years, the point is for many, many years he would cry and he would grieve, that the companions would worry for him. When will you stop? When will you stop? What has happened to you? But the most difficult, out of all of these things, you know what was the most difficult for Imam al-Sajjad? It was to bury his three-year-old sister in the dungeons of Sham, the daughter of Hussein ibn Ali, As-Sakina or Ruqayya. You know, there was a 3-year-old with Imam al-Sajjad. This was his sister. This is the janazah. This was the most difficult thing, and for this reason Imam al-Sajjad would always remember what happened in Asham. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. ماتم حسين.